Welcome back to The Debaters Season 2, a debate game show for high school students here in Vietnam. The Debaters is co-produced by VTV, National Educational Channel here in Vietnam, and British University, Vietnam. I'm your host, Dustin Chevier. When someone thinks of sports, they often think of something conventional like running, swimming, or even football, but esports, electronic sports. Something like this has grown in popularity over the years. 30 years ago, video games, maybe not that popular, but today, for a young generation, for the older generation, video games are extremely popular. And yes, gamers have made a profession, from live streamers to professional gamers, competitive gaming, and can make thousands, if not up to millions of dollars. But are esports actually something legitimate, like a sport where you can put it in the Olympics? Is this possible? And today, we are going to be discussing just that. So for the motion today, that esports should be included in the Olympic Games. So without further ado, let me please welcome the students to the podium.
Hi guys, we're the champions!
Well, I think it's a very interesting motion. It certainly opens up a lot of different arguments and ways that you can tackle this issue, especially considering esports is becoming a rapidly famous thing in Vietnam and the world right now.
Most of our friends are video game players, then we also can learn a lot from them about certain statistics, certain resources where we can get information about the current situation of esports around the world. But apart from that, we also work together and receive extreme help from our coaches and mentors.
I think that three of them have very good foundation at the very beginning. However, they still have like a lot of strength and also a lot of like weakness. For example, they do not have a lot of analysis when it comes to rebuttal. So what I'm currently working right now is give them more knowledge and skill in terms of rebuttal.
Well, I think that no matter what the outcome is, let's try to have the most fun we can. After all, it's what debating is about, isn't it? 3, 2, 1. Fist bump!
Hello audiences, we are Nutcrackers from Nguyễn Thành Lower and Upper Secondary School. We decided to join the debaters because we're in a debate club at our school and it seemed like a good opportunity to upgrade our skills in both English and debating.
And shout out to ROV.
Yeah, ROV, raise our voices.
We all think our motion is kind of hard in some way because like at first we didn't really understand the motion, so we went into the wrong direction on how to approach it. So yes, luckily our mentor was there to guide us back to the right directions.
I think the opposition will face with the difficulties when have to deal with the popularity of the esport. However, we tell them and we, along with them, we discuss and research a lot of topics and articles related to the Olympic and esport and also the value of Olympics. So I think they will do their best in this debate.
So I'm going to start over here with the champions. And the debaters, the students often come up with interesting names, but why the champions?
Well, to be totally honest, we were applying this like on a very tight schedule, so we just like what popped that in the head and chose that.
So no significant meaning?
No.
Because I have super high expectations for you guys, because the champions, that's like, I'm going to win and destroy everybody.
No, we're gonna win.
Okay, see, we got the confidence over here. But this name right here, the Nutcrackers. When I hear Nutcrackers, one thing comes to mind. Like you have almonds, you're smashing almonds and walnuts and peanuts. Why the Nutcrackers?
We're avid classical music fans, so when you think of Nutcrackers, you think of Tchaikovsky's ballet.
Yes, I like that. Nutcrackers and the champions. So now that we have the two teams organized, let me please welcome the judges to the debaters. So let's start the first round of the debate. From the champions, please welcome Nguyen Diệu An. From the Nutcrackers, please welcome Nguyễn Thanh Linh. All right, girls, Are you nervous?
Yes.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you?
8.
8, okay.
8 again.
Good. We have, all right, a fair playing field right now, so both 8s, which is very, very good for this. For the first debate, you have 3 minutes to give your speech. There is no POI allowed for this debate. So from the proposition team, you will be going first. So let the debate begin.
In a world like today, there are many factors that have pushed the game industry to develop rapidly. Nowadays, on platforms like Twitch, there are professional gamers who stream for a living and also professional gaming competitions as well. It's creating a promising market because billions of dollars and million job opportunities are poured into the industry each year. However, due to the fact that A, many people still won't recognize esport as a sport, B, they still view gaming in a negative light, esport hasn't truly developed to its full potential yet. And besides that, the Olympic is also losing its viewership too. So, as proposition, our goal today is to bring more benefits for both the gaming industry and the Olympics. Before we get into the practical and principle ground, we'd like to give definitions and characterization of the motion. Esports is a competitive way of playing computer games using physical and mental ability within a professional setting. And the Olympic Games here are a leading set of sports competitions with the best athlete representatives from all over the world. In the Olympics, there is a huge media coverage, both through social media and traditional methods. It is considered a very prestigious event and gains the attention of international audience, many communities, and world leaders as well. Now, moving to our case. On our side of the house, we believe that the inclusion of esports in the Olympic is completely justifiable. That's because esport meets all the requirements and values of an Olympic sport. A, the Olympics require a competitive component, and esport gamers have to compete to win through competitions which require fair play and strategy. B, esport allows for expression of human ability both mentally and physically. The player uses his or her brain to play the game and also uses their hands, eyes, or mouth, which is certainly using physical ability. Although your side of the house may question if this qualifies as physical activity, the answer would definitely be yes. Physical activity doesn't have to be necessarily like running or jumping, right? It can simply be moving your body somehow. In fact, in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, shooting is also a qualified sport. And by just aiming and shooting, it doesn't use much physical movement like esports. C, there is adequate diversity representation from esports. Esports is a very popular globally, with 400 million audience each year, and it is developing fast, especially in Asia and even developing countries like Vietnam. There are already 2.5 billion gamers in 194 countries in the world, and in this, 48% gamers are females and the rest are male, and this basically means that it has potential to develop all different backgrounds. D, the goals of the Olympics align with esports. The educational and health values can be shown through gamers' practice, nutrition, and care for health. And at the end of the day, these gamers are not competing for fun, right? They're there to represent their national pride. And lastly, your side may question why is chess qualified but cannot be in the Olympics while esport can? Because esport is a spectator sport, and for all those reasons above, that is why Proposition believes that it is justified to include esports in the Olympics, and the further practical benefits will be introduced by my second teammate. Thank you.
It is all Olympics games, but not all games are peak. Before coming to the debate today, first of all, some rebuttals. The first speaker of the proposition team has stated that esport meet all the requirements to become a sport in the Olympic Games. However, we believe that the IOC has set up the criteria for the sports to be chosen if only there are physical activities which demonstrate human abilities in nature. The fact that esport doesn't have any physical activity go against the spirit of the Olympic Games. For example, chess is a beneficial sport that boosts our logical thinking ability, but is also not included in the Olympic Games because there's rarely physical actions. Coming to the debate today, we'll present two main arguments that include esport goes against the spirit of the Olympic Games, and esport creates a legitimate excuse for gaming addiction. Our first argument will be the features of esport go against the spirit of the Olympic Games. We will analyze these arguments with 3 layers. There's no urgency in including esport in the Olympic game. there is an unfair competition among countries, therefore leads to a lack of sportsmanship, and finally, there are lacks of criteria for esports to be included. Now coming to our first point, which is there is no urgency in including esport in the Olympic game. I will explain this argument by asking you a question. Why should we include esport in the Olympic game for a gold medal when it has already existed esport World Championship? Esport has always been popularized all over the world, and the fact that we include esport in the Olympic Games may limit the chances of other sports to be known more. Furthermore, there's no necessity in including esport to the Olympic game since playing game isn't something of basic need and really important. Second of all, we shouldn't have esport in the Olympic game due to the fact that there is an unfairness in competition among nations, therefore leads to a lack of sportsmanship. Not every country has a developed technological industry, so how can underdeveloping countries take part in this esport competition in the Olympic game? Poverty, famine, and other social issues has already caused these developing countries' inability to catch up with super countries in the race, like USA or China. So what is the point and meaning of a competition if competitors are meant to be left behind? Now coming to our tieback, we believe that we should not include esport in the Olympic Games because of the fact that it gets against the spirit of the Olympic Games. Thank you.
Conclusion of the first debate. How are you feeling right now? Proposition team?
Relieved.
Relieved, okay. Because I know you mentioned you had an 8 on the nerves. Opposition team?
I think I'm a little bit nervous because if I didn't do well, then I will put a lot of pressure on my teammates.
Well, this is the first debate, so there's still 3 more rounds, so you don't have as much pressure as you think you have. Same goes to you as well. So girls, are you curious to hear what the judges have to say?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Stuart, we are going to start with you.
Of course, this is the first round of the debate today, so it's a difficult round to get into, but I think you both kind of presented your ideas extremely clearly and you backed them up with good points. What I would say is, in terms of the things that I really liked for the champions, I really liked your ideas about both meeting the requirements and the values of the Olympics, but definitely the concept of diversity and actually bringing in games can open up the diversity of the Olympic Games, which you are saying is an important part of the Olympic Games themselves. On the other side, for the negative team, I liked the fact that on the negative team you guys did try and go in for a rebuttal. However, I felt like it lacked impact that it was supposed to create, largely because your rebuttal was mainly on the idea that there's no physical activity, whereas this team had already kind of identified that some of the games within the Olympics don't require that much physical activity. So I think to try and rebuke their idea using an example that didn't quite kind of tackle the idea that they went for was, felt a little bit short. So for me, I'm going to have to give my points to the affirmative team.
Okay, let's go with Hugh.
I think both of you share the same strength, which is the way you deliver your speech as well as the structure. It's a very easy to follow structure and also a very clear layout of ideas and arguments. However, both of you share the same weakness, which is most of your arguments are very on the surface. They lack substance in order to convince me. On the proposition team, even though you say that esport meet all the requirements and values of the Olympics, the reasoning doesn't convince me so, because you point out about the competitiveness and the human stability, but I'm not sure how much of the diversity of female and male play, how does that fit with the whole Olympic requirements and values. And I think even your example of using shooting as an activity that doesn't require a lot of physical activity, I don't think it's a very convincing example, because actually shooting requires a lot of physical strength and endurance as well. So I think work on those further development. With the opposition team, I think you have an idea there, but it's not convincing yet. In your arguments, I think 2 of your arguments is really strong, which is there's no urgency, which is if something is there and it meets the requirement, there's no urgency to include in the Olympic Games. And I think it's a hard argument for the other team to attack. And I think the problem of fairness in terms of other countries, how are they having the foundation and the facilities in order to compete with the other developed countries. I think those are good one, but again, it's very on the surface. So I think given the fact that both of you share the same strength and the same weakness, I will give my point to the team, at least give me ideas that tick with me more. And I think there's some substance there. That's why my 10 points go to the opposition team.
All right, 10 and 10. Wait, let's hear it.
I think that the prop side and the op side today approach the motion very, very differently, and that makes it really interesting for a spectator like me. The proposition side, you went very directly into the point, like, okay, I think it should be included for one simple reason. It makes the cut. It fulfills all of the requirements to be in an Olympic Games. Of course, I would agree with the judges that, yeah, there should be more to be done. But honestly, with 3 minutes, I think that you really, really done a good job. So I really feel proud about that speech, if I were you. For the op side, however, you went really indirectly. So instead of telling me, like, why is it so bad to include such a game like e-sport into Olympics game, you gave me two reasons. First of all, is that it's actually not urgent to do so. And second of all, it is actually unfair. So the ideas of unurgent, I'm going to leave it for the prop side later on to work on the engagement with it, because I don't think like talking more about it going to be beneficial for you and also the prop team. But about the ideas about unfair, I think that this is actually a nice idea and it's very well thought, but I wish that you could spend more time explaining to me more about it. For now, I would say that with the gap between the cases, the way that you guys approach to it, I can see that the team that is closer to the motion right now is the proposition side, so my 10 points will go to them.
All right, proposition team, 20 points. Opposition team, 10 points. However, please don't be discouraged, opposition team, because it's extremely early in the show. And proposition team, do not get overly cocky because it's early in the show and you can lose just like that. So girls, thank you so much. Please return to your seats. So currently right now, the champions, the proposition team has 20 points. The Nutcrackers, the opposition team has 10 points. However, this is the first debate and we will have the second debate right after the break.
With 400 million audience each year, and it is developing fast, especially in Asia and even developing countries like Vietnam.
Not every country has a developed technological industry, so how can underdeveloping countries take part in this e-sport competition in the Olympic game?
Both of you share the same weakness, which is most of your arguments are very on the surface.
Welcome back to the second debate of the debaters. Currently, right now, the proposition team has 20 points and the opposition team has 10 points. It's still early in the game, and right now we are going to start the second debate. From the proposition team, please welcome Phan Lê Thái Anh. From the opposition team, please welcome Nguyễn Phương Linh. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Yes? So much enthusiasm. I love this. Opposition team, right now you are the underdog. How are you feeling?
Well, I guess in the movies, underdogs get to win at the end, so
Yeah?
let's see.
I like your responses so far, so I'm very curious to know how this debate is going to go. Because currently 20 points, 10 points. For the second round of the debate, it's a little bit different. You will have 4 minutes to deliver your speech. POI is entirely open. Do you girls understand? The proposition team, you will be going first. Are you ready?
Okay, yes.
Let the second debate begin.
Side opposition coming to today's debate, only giving us claim without further explanation. First, we heard that the sports that are included in the Olympics do not have physical ability. However, our first speaker all have already pointed out to you that the physical range in the metric of the Olympics games is a very wide range. It could range from only like rifle shooting to like running until you're out of breath, right? And the example that you give out to us about the chess, to be exact, chess do not qualify because it did not meet the popularity requirement around the world, not because this is not a physical sport if you have dig deeply into the research of the Olympic officials. The second of all, when you tell us that it is against the spirit of Olympic Games when it creates unfair competition between nations, actually we tell you that on our side of the house, we actually create the fairer competition in the future because currently developing nations like Vietnam or India are the fastest growing esport in the world, with Vietnam has 9 million players on its own and India with 5 million players on its own. So therefore it creates a fairer competing opportunity between two different nations. But third of all, about the urgency, when you tell us it is already popular and there are already internal competition about sports game, therefore it is not necessary to put it into the Olympic game. However, we tell you that this is not true. Sure, it might be in internal competition. Because of that, people from outside the gaming community still stigmatize esports as something that is very addictive. It does not make out money, while it is a very big industry and is a very money-making industry in the world. And also it is included in regional competitions like ASEAN Games, but it's still only regional, right? So there needs to be an international competition for it to be competed. And also, when you say that it will limit all the sports opportunity on our team, we tell you that it would actually create opportunities for all the sports that do not need much physical movements to widen the sports diversity. But moving on to our practicality, number one, the destigmatization of esport. How will Olympic help? Stage number one, awareness. Since Olympics has been characterized at receiving huge media attention, forum discussion, and at the same time, public attention, and also it is the only platform that is prestigious, but at the same time, international. Second, but more importantly than just awareness, the very next step is how it will shape people's positive attitude towards the gaming community through A, the game is selected by trusted panels and council. B, people actually have the opportunity to visualize, where athletes actually sit together and there are panel judging and there are based on a very strict metric, and also there are prizes. And C, teams that go to Olympics are trained by coaches, supported by governments and local councils. So definitely it is not an individualist sport. It is not just people addicted to games, being at home and competing, but it's actually the contribution of the very whole community. And eventually, people would step by step change their opinions about the community on its own. Question, why is it important and necessary to destigmatize esport? Number one, it's a multi-billion market. In 2020, global esports market's value is over $950 million US dollar, and it is expected to grow over $1 billion in 2020, according to Statista. And also, so it is a very big industry on its own. And also it would create tremendous unrealized opportunity for job and employments more than what people normally think. But moving on to the second practicality idea, the benefits that it could bring to the Olympic Games, according to Forbes View, Olympic Game is currently facing decrease in viewership. It is a decrease 27% since 2010. And when the viewership decrease, then the profits also decrease. The quality of the Olympics will also decrease. Then the athletes will be demotivated. Therefore, that's the case where Olympics lose their spirit. And it is very hard to maintain the quality of the show over the time. Meanwhile, esports experienced a rapid growth with more than 450 million viewers. Therefore, including the esport into Olympics will promise high viewership and also sponsorship. And it will ensure the quality of the events and maintain the event for a very long time. We are more than proud to propose.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a game addict? Yes, right? But have you ever seen a running addict? Very unlikely. That is what's happening in our society nowadays. The phenomenon of game addict and young people wanting to pursue gaming professionally, despite its risks, is common in our society nowadays, and it can become even more problematic by adding esports to the Olympic Games. Before coming to our point, one rebuttal to the proposition team. You have stated that the Olympic Games is facing decrease in viewership, which in turn leads to no more spirit and profit for both the organizations and the players. And esports would promise high viewership. But this is not the case. How can you ensure that if esport is added to the Olympic Games, it will promise in higher viewership? Because esport itself is controversial. When something is controversial, people will be divisive in the problem of whether you want to watch it or not. Maybe parents will say that, oh, this is not something that I would want my children to watch. In turn, they will not choose to watch the Olympics. And now, coming to our second point, which is adding esports to the Olympic Games create a legitimate excuse for gaming addiction. Firstly, let's look at the status quo. There aren't many kids who are interested in running sports and javelin or marathon, but there is a gigantic number of young people who are interested in playing video games. So, why is it a problem? First, let's look at the values of the Olympic Games. It is a huge worldwide event which is watched and respected by people all around the world, and 3.6 billion to be exact. Because of that, if children tell their parents that they are quote-unquote practicing for the Olympics, it would be less of an issue. It will sound less like an issue, and children will eventually do what? They will have an excuse. Adding esports to the Olympic Games would mean that there would be a substantially large-scale platform for it. POI?
Practicing for an Olympic Games, as we have previously explained, need coaches and the whole team to support them in terms of even their meals and the way that they practice. Therefore, kids cannot just lie to their parents that they are representing their nation in order to compete for the Olympic Games.
Not parents need proof. They can just listen to the children and believe them. Okay, next to my point. It will become more widespread. Adding esports to the Olympic Games would mean that there would be a substantially large-scale platform for it. It will become more widespread, which influences young people to look at it as more of a possible career choice, thus making more young people risk everything to pursue it professionally. So, what about young people? Young people lack maturity, so they don't have enough maturity to thoroughly think about their future. They want to do what's fun at the moment. So, they are the majority of gaming enthusiasts. So, in turn, adding esports to the Olympic Games would mean that there would be a legitimate excuse for them to play video games, thus increase the problem of gaming addiction. As the addition of esports incentivizes the youth to game, it will yield many impacts on the society. Firstly, the youth is also the future workforce, the heart of the economy. Combined with the already existent phenomenon of gaming addiction, tons of people would just choose to pursue games instead of other jobs, which creates a decrease and imbalance in the workforce. Not to mention, not every aspiring athlete will succeed and become professional players. So, how is the failure of going professional different in esports compared to other sports? If the gamer fails to go professional, what would he have left? A sore neck, back, hand and wrist pain, and a lack of academic education. In turn, what would an athlete of another sport get? They would still have their health boosted by the nature of their sports, physical activities, which esports doesn't have. In conclusion, because of how adding esports to the Olympic Games can incentivize young people to pursue such a risky career and result in gaming addiction, the motion is completely unfavorable. Thank you for listening, and I rest my case.
This is getting good. I like this. This is getting intense. So girls, I love this. So video games and the passion here. So for our proposition team, what are your thoughts? What's racing through your mind right now?
Well, to be honest,
yes,
I'm thinking about the way that I could help my third member to rebut all of what she just said, because those are excellent ideas.
Yeah, no, personally, the first debate, great. Second debate, getting even better. The third debate, I have no idea what to expect at this point. Because when you're doing this, the judge over there, Uing, she gave you 2 thumbs up. Are you feeling more optimistic or, I don't know, how are you feeling? Because the judge is going to lean towards you or the opposition team?
Well, I think probably the thumbs up doesn't matter that much. It could mean I have some impressions in my speech, but then overall, then it could depend on another factors. So I'm still worried and anxious even before and after I receive the thumbs.
Yeah, because I really don't know how the judges are going to score this, so I'm very curious. But, all right, opposition team.
Yes.
The judge over there, Uing, she gave you 1 thumbs up. Proposition team got 2 thumbs up. How does that make you feel?
Well, like likes on Facebook, they don't matter that much, but I'm still really grateful for the like. It gave me a little mental boost, so thank you.
Okay, I like that. But we'll see how the debaters for this show, how many likes it gets on YouTube and on Facebook as well. So maybe more than 3, hopefully. Judges, hi. Second debate, it's heating up. Uy, you look like you're ready. And you gave 3 thumbs up total. You have a lot to say, I'm sure.
The likes I put in here, I put it because there were some impressive points in which I thought that it would worth encouraging the debaters to talk more about it. And I think that you guys did talk more and gave me very, very meaningful ideas. So for the prop side, I think that I'm really impressed when you did very nice, chain of rebuttals. And I think your rebuttals kind of work. And your argument about like stimulation, I think that is a very, very strong idea. However, what I heard from the op side was that she didn't have as much rebuttals as you. She gave me like only 1 strong rebuttals about how the stimulation actually doesn't work. And it's actually will create an excuse for gaming addicts in the future. Well, I think that this idea one-handedly cannot give her the whole win, but the reason why I'm very, very convinced in her speech is when she developed things into how people would have the tendency to risk a lot more things in their life in the future in order to pursue the gaming, since it is now recognized as one of the Olympics game, and how the value, it's going to be much more disastrous on their side. And I think that is actually a very worth noticing idea. I would say it's very, very close. And I would argue that if I could have like 10 points, I can split it. I could definitely give like some points to the prop side as well. But because of the rule in here, I definitely have to give my 10 points to the op side.
Right. This is getting interesting. Stuart.
So for the affirmative team, I liked the rebuttal that you mentioned about the urgency. You argued that that wasn't the case, that actually there is a building urgency and there's a growing fan base. Although it's now at just the regional level, it needs to go international to have that stage. So I thought that was a really good rebuttal. Some of your ideas were good, but they were a little bit limited. So for example, you went for this notion of destigmatization. One of your main reasons was that it's a multi-billion market. But I need to understand why that's important. Why do we actually need to destigmatize it to kind of push forward this market? Why is this market important? For the negative team, I think your opening kind of a little bit weak. I think you can get running addicts. I think there is an addiction to physical exercise. So I thought that was a little bit weak from your side. One thing I think I struggled with is, why are young people choosing to make, if they're influenced to go into the Olympics and do esports, and they're interested in going into esports as a career, I think you need to kind of give me a little bit stronger evidence as to why that's not necessarily a good career to go by. Overall, it's difficult, but I think the affirmative team for me had the stronger points, stronger ideas for this one. Thank you.
All right. Hugh, the last judge.
On the proposition team, even though your first team member has given one of the arguments and we pointed out that it was not strong enough, but in your round, you actually did not back it up. Instead, you go towards rebuttals and developing of your own ideas. I think you need to strengthen the case of the first debater of your team. I applaud your effort to rebut a lot of the other team arguments. However, I think you haven't really addressed the unfair competitions among other countries. Now, you have to be very clear here. Just because you give the example of Vietnam and India, it doesn't negate the other team's argument, because with many other sports in the Olympics, even though you are a poor child and you're good in running or swimming, you still can compete in the Olympics, right? But with esport, for example, somehow you need certain income and a good family income in order to have the first foundation to play esport in the first time. Now with the opposition team, your rebuttals actually did not work for me. It's kind of a little bit against what common sense is. And with like social media and access to technology these days, when something is controversial, I think it's going to encourage more viewership than not. Now, I do agree with the other judge that when you start to go on to the development of the esport into the Olympic Games, we actually have a negative impact on the choices that the young people, especially when they lack maturity. I think that is a very strong argument. Yes, it's still not fully developed, but I think with the development of that argument is strong enough to be a stand-alone argument for the second round. And for that particular reason, I give 10 points to the opposition team.
So judges, thank you so much. Right now, the debate is a tie. 30 points for the proposition team, 30 points for the opposition team. What are you thinking right now? Were you expecting that?
We're expecting to win this round.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So a tie is not losing though.
Yeah, but like we're expecting for like some more coming from the very next turns.
Okay. So just no pressure on the third debater, no pressure at all. For both teams.
Yes.
Opposition team, were you expecting that?
Yeah, we're also expecting to return the tables.
Okay, because you're the underdogs.
Yeah.
And they usually win. So girls, thank you so much. Please return back to your seats. So currently right now with the champions, the proposition team, they have 30 points. With the opposition team, the Nutcrackers, also 30 points. We are tied. We will begin the third debate right after the break.
Including the esport into Olympics will promise high viewership and also sponsorship, and it will ensure the quality of the events and maintain the events for a very long time.
How can you ensure that if esport is added to the Olympic Games, it will promise in higher viewership? Because esport itself is controversial.
I think you need to kind of give me a little bit stronger evidence as to why that's not necessarily a good career to go by.
Welcome back to the debaters. We just finished the second round and we are going to begin the third debate tonight. From the proposition team, the champions, please welcome Wang Min Nam. From the opposition team, please welcome Jiu Hui An. Okay, the third debate, right now it is a tie. Opposition team, I'm going to start over here. How are you feeling?
Well, I am really proud of both of my teammates. They did really well, and so I would like to continue what they're doing and basically perform my best.
Proposition team, how are you feeling?
More relaxed than I expected.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I have no clue. Maybe I'm just too accustomed to speaking in front of a large audience.
Did you hear that? We got lots of experience here. So this one is going to be interesting. So for the third debate, you have 4 minutes to deliver your speech. POI is entirely open. Proposition team, you will be going first. Do you guys understand?
Right.
All right. I'm very curious to see how this one is going to go. So get ready. Let the third debate begin.
I'll separate my speech into 3 parts. First, I will give rebuttal to the point that team opposition has brought to the table. Next, I will summarize my team's point. And finally, I will explain to you why my team has without a doubt won this debate. First, team opposition raised the point of addiction. However, they give the example of playing video games versus riding a bike or running. This is, however, false. Why? Addiction versus passion. What's the difference? Addiction means doing something repeatedly only to lead to a negative outcome. Passion means doing something that you love and that eventually leads to a good outcome. I will explain to you why adding esport into the list of official Olympics games counts as giving people a passion to head to. With esport being accepted into the Olympics, people have an actual goal, an actual career to follow, and thus it becomes not something negative but something positive, a goal that people pursue. And so when people practice for esport, they are not doing something negative, they are actually doing something positive, changing their lives, following their passion. That is no different from an athlete practicing 8 10 hours a day just doing their sports. No difference. Next, they say that adding esports into the Olympics will be controversial and thus will not help in the destigmatization of the gaming community. However, they merely state that esports is controversial. They have not given us any evidence to back that up. Next, my team has already explained why including esports into the Olympics bring positive outlooks into the esports community. And because they have not shown us why controversy is a part of the esports, therefore our points still stand, and therefore our points about destigmatization still is valid. Next, they say that having esports as a career is very high risk, but they have never explained to us what those risks are and why those risks overcome the potential advantages that esports can offer to people who don't have any alternatives. I will now summarize my team's point. My team's point is all the positive benefits that adding esports into the Olympics Games will bring. Olympics is already suffering from declining profits and viewership, as supported by the statistics provided by my second speaker. On the other hand, esports is now one of the fastest growing industry in the world. And so by adding esports into the list of official Olympic sports, we will revitalize the Olympics. We will bring more profit, bring more viewership. We will make Olympic greater event and bring more cooperations and competitions between the countries in the world. My team's second point is that destigmatizations of esports will help grow industries within countries and also help destigmatize the negative traits associated with the gaming communities. My second speaker has already stated why esports is $1 billion industry with lots of potential. I will now say that their points about how it is very unfair between developed and undeveloped countries when we add esports into the Olympics. Why? Because countries such as India or Vietnam, they are not renowned for their technological capabilities, yet they have a very big and growing esports scene. So reality contradicts their own claim. In order to win, team opposition must prove that the status quo is either already good or they can improve it via different methods. They have not proven us any other methods that can achieve the goal that my team has already proven to be possible with our methods. Therefore, I believe that my team's case brings the most benefit to the most relevant stakeholders within this debate, and I believe that my team has won this debate. In the worst case scenario of our team, Olympics and esports faces initial backlashes, but in the long run, brings the Olympics more benefits, such economics and viewership, and thus have more benefit overall to stakeholders within this debate. In the scenarios team opposition, esports is not added to the list of Olympic sports, and the status quo remains unchanged. Ratings continue to decline, and Olympics slowly fades into irrelevance. That's the end of my speech. Thank you for listening.
If the inclusion of esports in the Olympic really makes the younger generation the better version of themselves, and it is really what we need to boost the economy, our team is more than welcome to do so. However, throughout this debate, we have provided 3 fundamental issues to prove that this is wrong. First issue is that is there really any justification to include esports in the Olympics? Second issue is that we would like to talk about its impact on especially people who are interested in video games. And thirdly, we would like to talk about impact on the national economy. Firstly, I would like to come to our first issue, is that it is really a legitimate excuse to include esports in the Olympics. Firstly, the proposition said that it meets all of the requirements, and it means like diversity and competitiveness. But I would like to differ, as when we do talk about diversity, you said that people, everyone can join, but what about people from really underdeveloped countries? For example, like Africa. For example, like Usain Bolt, he's from a country that's not really developed, but yet he can still win. But when the children in Africa, they do not have the equipment necessary to train, how are they going to win? And also with your example on shooting, I would like to say that we have stated that the goal of the Olympics, it is to promote how humans can do their best in their nature ability. But mouse clicking and keyboard spamming is really a human nature. And also shooting requires healthy physical activity. With esports, you only sit for like 10 hours a day, training, nothing else. And to the layer of the analysis, we have stated two layers, that there is no urgency to include esports in this debate in the Olympic as it already has popularity. And we would like to add that there has been a poll to ask the esports fans whether or not they are interested in esports being included in the Olympic, and they have said no. And they have already have an economy built on esports. They have tournament, they have sponsorship, and the player have already been paid enough so that they are not interested. So there's no necessary for esports to be included. Second of all, it creates an unfair competition for players, as I have said before. It goes against the spirit of the Olympic. And also, talking about diversity, the Olympic also have males versus female. When esports mostly only have male players, and we would like to talk about the impact on the economy. We've already stated that game addiction already exists. With its inclusion in the Olympic, the addiction will only get worse.
How are you guys feeling right now? Proposition team?
Like I was before.
Okay, I know before very confident and relaxed because quite a bit of experience with this. Because right now, again, it's 30-30, and then we still have one more round after this, which can change a lot of stuff. So opposition team, how you doing?
I'm kind of relieved as well, because it's over, and if we lose, we already won them ourselves.
Yeah, because for a lot of you at home, you don't realize how difficult it actually is to speak another language that's not your native tongue, then do it on stage with a ton of cameras and a huge audience. It's extremely difficult. You cannot even imagine. But for you guys right now, we are going to hear from the judges. Right now, we have a tie, and you are going to destroy that tie. It's inevitable. So, Uing?
I think ideas-wise, both teams today didn't do a very good job for me, even though the prop side, there was a summarize. I think the summarize is really good structure-wise. I think basically it's flawless. But when I heard from your structure, I was still questioning where are the highlights, where are the strongest contribution that definitely can get require me to give you 10 points. So I think that was some lacking in your case in there. For the upside, I think that you have very good opportunities in order to, rebut and even, to highlight your teams, because you have very strong, teammates that brought up very strong case for you as well. However, I think that you spend a big amount of time for rebutting and bring up news materials, which unfortunately cannot be credited in the last round. The second thing in here is that even though you did manage to bring up rebuttals, I think those rebuttals were not necessarily very strong, that you can persuade me more into your side. So unfortunately, it was not very, very successful attempts. Through what I gained from both teams, I would say that the team that did slightly better for me is still the proposition side. So my 10 points go to the proposition side.
So thank you, Uing. Hugh, let's hear the honest opinion. Always very, very blunt with your responses.
The proposition team comes in. I think your first rebuttal is good, which is there's a difference between addiction and passion, and there's no difference between someone practicing for esport and someone practicing for other sport. I think that is the only bright spot of your entire 4 minutes. I think the rest is just a paraphrasing and paraphrasing and paraphrasing of the same idea that esport is growing market, so include that into the Olympics. It's gonna increase the viewership of Olympics, but you haven't proven to me that with the risk of esport, even though it's a growing industry and it's one of the fastest growing, but you include something that is negative and that's destructive into something that Olympic, it can even cause further damage. With the opposition team, I do feel sympathized for you. In terms of ideas, you have the same problem with the proposition team, which is just paraphrasing because of your nerve. But you do have two bright ideas. Number one is about the unfair competition with the case of Usain Bolt in Africa. I think you also cite a poll survey that the people who play esport, they're not interested in the Olympics, and they already have tournament and championship and whatsoever, so there's no need to include. I wish you can be calmer and control, because I think you have a strong opportunity to win the third round. But I don't know, it's very hard for me to give the 10 points in this round because I don't think anyone deserves it.
Well, you got to do it. That's part of the game.
Just because of the skill of speaking, my 10 point go to the proposition team, but that's the only reason why.
Okay. All right, Stuart.
For Mingnam, the main idea that I liked from you was this reframing of addiction as passion. It's something the other side were talking about quite a lot throughout all of their rounds, and actually I like the fact that you actually managed to, in this round, reframe that as something that could be potentially positive. Other idea that I kind of liked, I liked that you were questioning that, you know, the other team was saying there's no evidence that actually video games are controversial. So your notion of having destigmatizing games is important, but it's important also to understand why destigmatization is important in itself. For the opposition, again, it didn't really feel like the weaknesses in the arguments, or your arguments that were kind of picked out both by ourselves and by the affirmative team, were really kind of strengthened in that last round. You tried to go through a few rebuttals, but a lot of it was kind of just a repetition of ideas and not much development from that. And I was expecting, you know, your rebuttals to be a little bit stronger and to kind of take this opportunity to really say, well, okay, if these ideas are true, then you know, what actual effect does it have? I was kind of expecting you to pick apart some of their final ideas a little bit more. So for that reason, I thought just in terms of the rebuttals, in terms of the ideas that are kind of put forward, I will give it to the affirmative team.
Okay. So thank you, Stuart. So, all right, guys. So for the proposition team, the champions, you guys currently have 60 points. The opposition team, 30 points. What's going through your mind right now?
I don't know, I kind of like questioning God at this point. Like, I don't know how, but our school kind of like, last year, we have a very strong team going to this competition as well.
Yeah.
But they, all three in the round, they meet like the top 3 teams finally going to this competition,
yeah.
So they cannot win. And now, we have you guys. Why? But again, thank you for relieving me from this pain.
Well, technically, it's not over yet. It's kind of a weird situation because we have 15 more points to deliver. I know right now the proposition team has a guaranteed win. I hate to say that. I really don't like to say that. But the final round, let's see if we can kind of shift the points a different direction. So, proposition team, I know you're probably feeling relieved a bit, but don't. Not at all. Please don't feel relieved because it's not over. And they can still make you guys look really bad with the final speech.
Yeah, we'll crack your nuts.
See, the nutcrackers. So literally do that. So you guys, thank you so much. So please go back to your seats. Currently, right now with the proposition team, the champions, they have 60 points. With the opposition team, the nutcrackers, they have 30 points. However, the show is not over because we have a final round that we will get back to you right after the break.
With esports being accepted into the Olympics, people have an actual goal, an actual career to follow. And thus, it becomes not something negative, but something positive, a goal people pursue.
You said that people, everyone can join, but what about people from really underdeveloped countries, for example, like Africa?
When I heard from your structure, I was still questioning where are the highlights that definitely require me to give you 10 points.
Welcome back to the Debaters Season 2. Despite the circumstances at the moment, the opposition team can still take some of the win away from the proposition team, and ultimately, we can say make them look bad. So without further ado, let me please welcome the students to the podium. From the proposition team, please welcome Phan Lê Thái Anh. From the opposition team, please welcome Nguyễn Phương Linh. Okay, so I need to hear your thoughts right now, opposition team, because the proposition team is busy. What are you thinking? How are you feeling right now?
It's actually not that bad of a losing situation.
All right, proposition team?
Well, just as our name, we want to bring out the best performance that we could today.
The champions.
Please look forward to it.
Okay. Because you guys you were part of the second debate, correct? And that was probably one of the most intense debates that we had. So this round, I am very curious to see how this is going to go. So for the rules of the final round, you have 2 minutes to deliver your speech. No POI. So 2 minutes and 2 minutes. Opposition team, you have the privilege of going first. Proposition team, you will be going second. Do you understand the rules?
Yes.
All right. So let the final speech begin.
We, the opposition team, is proud to say that we believe that we have the upper hand in this debate. Firstly, the proposition team has not been able to give a satisfactory rebuttal to our point, for example, of adding esport to the Olympic Games, creating unfairness between the countries. Yes, you have given the example of countries like Vietnam, Korea, and India, but have you forgotten about other countries? Can countries in Africa compete fairly against the aforementioned teams? Would it be a fair match between Nigeria and South Korea? And we have mentioned that the risk of doing esports was neck pain, back pain, hand pain, wrist pain, and even more issues. And note that these are all inevitable issues when you compete in esports. And also, I would like to say that our points are impeccable. The fact that adding esports goes against the spirit of Olympics and that it would generate the significant harm of giving young people an excuse to play games is enough for us to win this debate. And thank you, and we rest our case.
From the very beginning of the debate, team's opposition come up with many strategic mistakes. One of those included you have a lot of claims without explanation. Some of them are completely solved by my previous speakers. Those could be the idea of the physical factors in sportsmanship and also about the unfair competition. But an idea about whereas esport does not include human nature, therefore it shouldn't be included. However, we tell you that esport included vision, it includes hand-eye combination, and also includes strategy, which completely qualifies all of those factors to become an Olympic sport. But now, answering two main questions: which side can protect more group of stakeholders, and which side will make the world a better place? First question: on your side of the house, you fail to maintain the quality of the Olympic Games in the future when Prop has already pointed out the downgoing situation of funding and viewership of the Olympic Games, also the risk of discouraging traditional sport athletes. Second of all, you avoid that tremendous opportunity of big industry, of the game industry to grow, which means that you avoid the opportunities for the mass majority to benefit from the development of the global economy. On your best case scenario, you are able to protect those parents from being lured by their kids about practicing about the Olympics. However, we have already pointed out to you that practicing for nationals need professionals' help from coaches, and including Olympics, which means parents will eventually change their mind as proven, which will make the world become even more civilized, because the kids now actually have the opportunity to go and chase their dream, despite being called like addicted and somewhat. But second of all, making the world a better place, we on side proposition can ensure sports and its beautiful message will last forever through Olympic Games, through like maintaining the competition by getting sponsorship from including the esports.
Thank you girls so much. With the final reply speech, there is no input from the judges. Unfortunately, the judges will not be sharing anything with us. But we are going to see how the points have shifted from the original round in the third debate. So girls, thank you so much. Please return back to your seats. Currently, right now, we have 60 points from the proposition team and 30 points from the opposition team. We are going to get the result from the judges very, very soon.
Ignite your passion. Ignite your passion.
Welcome back to the Debaters Season 2. Currently in my hands, I have the final results of today's debate. So, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a lot of anticipation right now, or do you think it's already kind of one-sided?
Already kind of one-sided?
Okay, so We have 15 points total, and the judges all sided with one team. Those 15 points are going to the champions. Congratulations, you guys. You don't seem that excited.
We are internally excited.
Internally excited. Okay, so all 15 points going to you guys. But opposition team, you did a phenomenal job. So the Nutcrackers, I would give you the win for the name compared to the champions. No offense. But the Nutcrackers, that's a really clever name, I would say. So go home and crack those nuts, as you were mentioning earlier. And for all of you guys at home, the debaters here, we're encouraging students to practice English. In a debate scenario, it's a lot harder, especially when English is not your first language. And thank you guys so much for coming up here. There's a lot that you are doing, and I hope you left this show with something a bit more in life. And for all of you at home right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and share the video. Help promote the debaters. I want to give a big shout out to British University Vietnam. Thank you so much for sponsoring the debaters. And for you guys, audience, everyone at home, have a great night, and we will see you again with another episode on The Debaters.